Speakers. Number 2, therapy.
Rich. My name's Lenny Davis, and this is an audio diary that Adrian said I should keep so I can monitor my progress. I've just had my first session with him, so this will be my way of logging how I get on. So I'll start at the beginning, and that was a couple of weeks ago when June at work said I ought to think about maybe going for some therapy. But at first I thought, no, wait a minute, maybe I should go back a bit. 1954. Aye, that was when I was born. Pretty normal childhood, really. Didn't have much. Got belted around a bit. Well, quite a lot, actually, but, you know, who didn't? Then when I was 16, I joined the army. That was tough. We had this sergeant major who didn't like me. Well, he didn't like anyone, but he really didn't like me. He didn't like me, but did like my wife, Susan. In fact, she ended up running off with him. Well, you know, moving into his quarters anyway, you know, across the parade ground. Bit awkward. Anyway, the army taught me quite a lot, you know, how to live off berries, kill a man with one finger, that sort of thing. When I demobbed, I worked for the DHSS for about 5 years. It was quite tough too. You know, I was headbutted 23 times, yeah, but only kicked in the nads twice. People get quite leery when the dole money's not coming through. Of course, I wasn't allowed to fight back. Well, not that I would have anyway. And then I came to Durston's, where I've been for, well, nearly 20 years now. Can't believe it. 20 years. Durston's make high quality lemonade. It's more or less the same as the usual lemonade, but not so many bubbles. I work in the office. There's 8 of us, so quite a good crowd. I live on my own. You know, life's pretty routine. Work all week, maybe a quiet pint or two down the local. But, you know, I don't go out much. Happy with a DVD, a bottle of wine and a curry. But about 6 months ago, I started this crying. You know, I would just start crying suddenly, wherever I was. No blubbing or sobbing or anything. It would just be like my face just sprang a leak. I couldn't work it out. I didn't feel sad or anything. Anyhow, one day I was sitting on the fire escape at work, chatting to June, having a smoke. She's canny, that June. I've got a real crush on her. She's widowed. She's coming up 60, but she looks dead fit. I'd only put her at 54, tops. So anyway, we were just talking round the houses when I starts this crying thing all of a sudden. No warning. I was that embarrassed, especially as we were talking about bathroom fittings. She said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I didn't know. But you know, this time, because there was someone who was seeing me cry and actually asking me what was wrong, it was different. I actually felt really, really sad and lonely and miserable. When she put her arm around me, I started all this shoulder shaking stuff, and all the tears were gushing out, and the snot too. It was like that actress Julie, what's her name, in that telly thing, Sadly Madly Truly, was it? You know, when he's a ghost. Anyway, I was that upset I couldn't get any words out. I just kept hiccuping. Later, she sat next to me at my desk and told me she reckoned therapy would be a good idea. I said I wasn't mental, like. She said she knew that, but sometimes you just need someone to cast an objective eye. She'd gone to see a therapist after her Derek had died. She'd felt that unhappy she didn't see the point in living. And this woman had helped to put things in perspective. She said I'd be able to get one through my GP. I said I'd look into it, but I didn't fancy it really. Anyway, I was all right for about a week. I was even all right when Daniel started laying into me even more than usual. Oh, Daniel, sort of young buck at the office. He's, well, it's everything I'm not. Good looking, confident. He's married to a lovely girl. He's always boasting in the smoking room about how he shagged this lassie or that lassie over the weekend. The thing about Daniel, he's a bully. He is, he's a bully. That Daniel is a bully. He's not cuffing me round the back of the head, he's putting salt in my coffee. You know, one Christmas party he locked me in a stationery cupboard, and it was only when I'd knocked it over from inside that someone heard and got me out. That was June, actually. Well, the next time the crying did happen, it was a few days back. I just come out the newsagents with a paper and some tabs. And before I know it, there I am, Mr. bloody blub-faced in broad daylight. I thought, this is getting stupid. And I just happened to be looking in the direction of the small lads in the shop window, and I saw it. It's funny how some things stick in your mind. It was under a card written in red felt-tip pen, which said, Marcella, busty West Indian masseurs. I was tempted for a second, but then I thought, nah, I've never paid for it yet. I'm not starting now. But under it was this gold card with writing on it in silver ink. It said, depressed, anxious, afraid, alone, just confused. Let me show you how you help you. But it just seemed as if it was, like, meant to be. I took a note of the number and put it in my pocket. I didn't call for a few days. You know, it seemed like a big step. But when my eyes started squirting last night, I wouldn't stop. It completely ruined Shrek 2. I thought, right, time to make the call. I was a bit worried when I called because Adrian sounded a bit drunk. But then so was I. So I thought, well, who am I to say anything? I asked him if he thought he could help me because I might have a bit of a mental problem. He asked me what was wrong and I said I kept crying but I didn't know why. He said I did know why. I said no, I didn't know why. And he said I didn't know why. And I said look, if I knew why then I wouldn't be calling him. And he said I did know why but I just didn't know that I knew why. Which I thought about for a second or so and that seemed quite clever. I asked how much did he charge because I don't make a hell of a lot of Durstons. And he said, what could I afford? And I said, I didn't know what I could afford. And he said, I did know what I could afford. And I sort of started seeing a pattern. So I said, how about 30 quid a session? And he said, that would do. On the way over to Adrian's this afternoon, it crossed my mind that I hadn't asked him what his qualifications were. But I thought, well, he's probably all right. When I got there, it wasn't what I expected. A bit run down. 3-storey house converted into flats. On the back of that new Sainsbury's. Definitely needed a lick of paint, the whole building. And a bit damp and smelly. The front door was open. 3 old bikes chained up in the front hall. And a dead mouse. When I knocked at the door of his flat, there was no answer. I knocked at another 3 times and it was just about to go when I heard someone shout, "Moment!" So I waited. Then the door opened and there was Adrian. Tall, mid-40s, quite a beer belly on him, curly black hair, kind of thin on top. He was a bit cross-eyed. I didn't know which eye to favour at first, so I looked at the top of his nose when we was talking. He was wearing a black polo neck jumper, jeans and sandals. I thought, sandals in Reading, you don't often see that. I said, all right, I'm Lenny. He didn't go for any of the small talk. All he did was point at me and say, are you going to trust me? I thought, well, I'd better say yes. So I said yes. Wasn't what you'd call a luxury flat. Tatty old wallpaper. The furniture was knackered. And there were boxes and newspapers piled up everywhere. Strong smell of pickled onions. And on one wall there was this huge picture of a blizzard. He saw me looking at it and said, Prime Point. I said, ah, right. Also, there were Polaroid pictures of about 30 people pinned on the wall. All sorts, men, women, old, young. He said they're his clients. He said he'd like to call them his family. I can't tell you much about the session as it was happening. Well, apart from the first 5 minutes when he was just asking me normal stuff like, you know, my age, a bit about myself and my family. He did it dead fast, rattling off the questions like, and if I paused or anything, he'd be right in there with another one. I'd have asked him about his qualifications like, but I didn't get the chance. I suppose he seemed to know what he was doing. He said I was an immediate read. I said, what's an immediate read? He said, he knew more or less straight away exactly what my problem was. And I said, what is it? And he said that my upbringing had conditioned me to be passive in the face of personal tyranny. He said I was a magnet for abuse by those who were themselves slaves to abuse. And then he put his face right up to mine and he said, abuse has many forms. Then he kept his face there, staring. I didn't feel that comfortable. And his breath smelled rank. Pickled onions. Then he was telling me I felt sleepy. And the next thing I knew, I was opening my eyes and wondering when the hypnosis was going to start. But Adrian wasn't there. I looked at my watch, was amazed. About an hour had passed. So I got up, called Adrian's name. No answer. Looked around the flat. His bedroom door was ajar, and I could see his feet lying on the end of the bed. I listened. Not a sound. I thought, well, I won't wake him. I was racking my brains trying to work out what had happened. I couldn't remember a thing. I noticed that my photo had been added to the collection on the wall. I went into the kitchen to get a drink of water. I was parched. And it was then, from the kitchen, I saw a digital video camera on top of the bookshelf in the living room, pointed down at where me and Adrian had been sitting when he hypnotised me. It was the winking red light that drew my attention to it. So I reached up and got it. It's on record. So I stopped it, rewound a bit. It was me, just sitting still in the room on my own, like I'd been when I woke up from the hypnosis. So I rewound it back to the beginning. Then it all came back to me as I watched it. Once I was hypnotised, Adrian took a photo and pinned it to the wall with the others and said, "Welcome to the family." Then he started all this stuff about how I'd never again put up with bullying and abuse from anyone. And if anyone ever tried it, it would be my duty to use all the power that was available to me to punish him. And I wouldn't be afraid to do it, and I wouldn't feel guilty about it after. In fact, I'd feel quite good about it. And from this moment on, he said, the only person who could boss me around was him. I was his and his alone, like the rest of his family. So then, he says he's going into the bedroom and I have to go in with him for the next section of the session. But first, he said, I was to listen very carefully, because what he had to say next was very important. He said, whenever he said the word sufficient, that meant I had to stop whatever I was doing straight away. So then I watch him disappear off camera, and I'm following him. And there's a few moments silence, and then you hear a noise like a loud snap, and again's all quiet. And I watch myself come back in the room and sit in the chair again. And seeing it made me remember what happened in the bedroom. Well, the main part anyway. When we got in the bedroom, he told me it was time for me to learn how to punish people, and I was to practice on him, and it would teach me to have the confidence to stand up for myself and allow me to express all my suppressed anger. Well, under hypnosis, all my army training came back. Well, it only took me about 3 seconds to break his neck. Not enough time for him to say it's sufficient anyway. Oh, whoops. Nah, I'll always be grateful to Adrian. This means the opening of a whole new chapter. Let them all try and muck me around now. They'll get the same. Let's see now, who is there? Daniel at work. Next time he starts anything. That bloke next door was his music on all night. Aye. The evangelist bloke, the bus station, always telling me I'm going to hell. Those kids who spit at me at the end of the road. Him down the council tax office, definitely. That girl looks at me a bit funny. Check out Tilda Dasdy.